What's up, family? This is Brother Prodigy, aka Well I Am, back with another installment, y'all. This is part three. And I know a lot of you all have been looking forward to it because this has been a popular series, and I'm finna run with it until the wheels fall off. So, this is part three. I don't know if there's gonna be a part four or not, but I'm just going in, because y'all who know me, y'all know I don't play the radio. Y'all know I'm a straight up Gnostic. That's clear, that's evident and to the point. And I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm getting over this cold, so I can really bring it to you live and direct. You know what I'm saying? So this is titled part three, life in a virtual reality, because a lot of times I know y'all feeling me, the you all who really comprehend this information, you feel me. You've been in the matrix. You've been exposed to men and women of all shapes and sorts that really are really deficient in consciousness. And but this is a home you can go to where you can listen, you can play it back, you can download the MP3 on bootleg or whatever, you know what I mean, to just get a good grasp, just to keep you motivated to keep pressing on in this matrix of reality. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to be part three of this series. And once again, do not forget to go out and support the book Gnosis of a God, GNOSIS of a God, God, and it will utterly change your life. Seriously, because it changed my life. I mean, straight up, it changed my life just even writing it. So it's definitely a classic. Make sure you go out and get that. If nothing else, get it on Amazon. I'm completely sold out of my books, my hard copies, but I'm getting some more in from the publisher, so I can go ahead and once I do, I'll let you all know, and then y'all can just get them straight from me directly. That way I can autograph them for you, or you know what I mean, throwing some tidbits here and there, some gifts, So, but once again, yeah, go out and get it for right now until I get some more copies to where I can really sell them to you all at a discount too, because I'm not in it to make money. I'm not, even though I plug my book, I'm not in it to strictly make money. That's not what my MO is all about. So yeah, let's just start it off. What's today's date? Today is Thursday, October the 22nd. Okay. And in this part, I'm going to be talking to you about the different matrices that reside within the larger matrix, okay? Because there's levels to this shit, okay? But first, let's do what we always do, and that's to define our terms. Matrix: a situation or surrounding substance within which something else originates, develops, or is confined, okay? Simple enough, Or I kind of like the mathematical definition of matrix too: a rectangular array of numeric or algebraic quantities subject to mathematical operations. Okay. Now, program. What is a program? In computing, a program is a specific set of ordered operations for a computer to perform. Okay. So these are the definitions that I'm going to be using to frame this installment around. Okay, now I've already said that this universe, our galaxy, solar system, the entire cosmos is a matrix, a womb, if you will. Now, within this womb, the conception of life forms existed and do exist. At different ages, units of consciousness, those highly evolved, windy things, would and do incarnate into avatars, and while doing so learn three-dimensionally from one another. We learn three-dimensionally from one another. This is an evolved simulation, which means it's a set of events, or a set of events was set into motion by cause and effect processes in the representation of the behavior or characteristics of one system through the use of another system. Okay. Now, it's that one system is outside of the simulation where each consciousness resides, And that other system is the matrix of three-dimensional reality and all subsystems there too. Okay? Now, consciousness. Consciousness computes on a digital level in a language we define commonly as mathematics, all right? Which is the basis of all language, all right? Consciousness computes, or consciousness is that which computes, okay? The more evolved the language, the more equations you will find within that specific language, okay? You see your physical body, it acts like an antenna with input and output channels, okay? Consciousness is similar to that. Consciousness has an input channel, and that's when consciousness is learning, when it's soaking up the gnosis of its specific matrix. You see, the evolution of being, not acting, not pretending to be everybody but your goddamn self. When you finally learn how to control your ego, then you shall learn at a fast pace evolving your being. All right? The output channel in relation to consciousness is the expression of that consciousness, the demonstration of that consciousness. There is a learning and then a demonstration. There is a learning or an indrawing, and then there's the demonstration, which is the outpouring. Okay, this is a pattern that exists within all things in nature, as they are the reflection of the consciousness guiding the avatar, your body, flesh, meat, that which decays through time, in time, throughout time. And really, when you look at the aspect of sex, sex is one of the greatest things in the world. And, that's not coming from people. People might say, oh, well, it's lower three chakras, brother. I'm being 100. I'm being 100. Sex creates strong energies that form into patterns. And these things are what attract consciousness. They attract a viewer. Okay? Sexual energies. All right? And let me also say this. Why do you think porn is so popular? Because consciousness is naturally attracted to sex energies and the interaction between these energies. I mean, all of you've done it. I mean, come on, let's be real, y'all. It's like, in this matrix, whenever something catches your eye, you look at it, got him. I mean, now there is the focused attention on a thing, and whatever is being focused on, the focuser consciousness will seek or create an avatar to interact with what it's observing or what it's interacting with, depending upon how these energies affect the observer or consciousness. You see, and the same with guys. I mean, fellas. Okay, let's keep it real. All right. If a girl catches your eye, your natural instinct is to try to be the type of person that you think she might like. All right. Even if you're an asshole, you being an asshole to her is because that's what you think she might like. And some women like that though. So, but it's oftentimes we tend to portray or promote ourselves as being something that someone else might like. Okay, being likable, being agreeable. All right, especially if you have a job in the matrix. Your natural tendency, or you have a propensity to form yourself in that environment as being likable, as being friendly, as being someone that doesn't rock the boat, as being someone who follows the rules. All right. So the vibrations of sexual energies attract consciousness, which is in harmony with these frequencies, and inside the womb lies that gateway for consciousness to attach itself to this form of reality. Okay, then it's birthed under these strict rule sets of ours. All right. And that's pretty much the process of birth and conception and inception, is that through sexual energies, these vibrate at a certain frequency depending upon the avatars involved, which does solicit consciousness. Okay, it does solicit consciousness. All right. Like when you hear a loud bang or somebody shooting off a gun, or it catches your attention. That's just like sexual energies. It catches the attention because it sends out vibrations, and it catches the attention of a consciousness that is that might be receptive to that specific vibration. Okay, and then that consciousness attaches itself to this form of reality through the womb, and then it is birthed under a strict rule set, a la the Matrix. Okay, now some people ask me, right? They ask me, why don't we know anything or remember any of our past lives, right? Because people can't really understand. They say, okay, well, if this incarnation shit is true, then how come I don't remember my Aunt Susie from my past life? You know what I'm saying? And it's because each incarnation is a part of its own partition. The only thing that remains from lifetime to lifetime is the progress of your being, or the progress your being has made or not made at an intrinsic level. You see, your children, as much as we love our children and think that the world would utterly end without them, your memories of them will fade as your being evolves, and as your incarnations up to this point have been essentially steps in your evolutionary ladder of consciousness. Okay, it's not the Matrix, it's not the intellect of the Matrix that stands the test of time. It's what you've learned from your experience within this virtual reality that has truly affected your being. We're not talking about acting. We're not talking about lying or trying to impress people. You know what I'm saying? Because, keep it real. You probably do that to some extent. You probably try to impress people to a certain extent, or try to become likable in certain environments, specifically at your job. You want to be that good employee, that doesn't get caught doing anything wrong. But really and essentially, what contributes to the evolutionary progress of your being is what you learn. Okay, beyond just the sheer materialistic possessions of this Matrix. Okay, what you've learned about yourself, more specifically, not what you've learned about Kim Kardashian or Kanye West. No, what have you learned about yourself? Okay, your true self. What have you learned? What have you learned that you need to work on? Okay, that's what you keep throughout incarnation. Okay, and in this life, nothing stays the same. Even if a thing didn't want to change, it would ultimately change by merely in its relation to the expressions of other consciousness awareness units around it. So yeah, peer pressure is real. Okay, and in our day and age, many of the people who claim to be conscious are just those that are being changed by those truly conscious ones around them. You see, if you're in an environment, if you're submersed in an environment and there are many conscious men and women around you, then that's going to stimulate and propel you in a certain direction. And that certain direction is towards consciousness. But if you're not ready, then you will more or less adopt it as a trend. A lot of men and women, they adopt the evolution of consciousness as a trend. And you can tell it's a trend because they gravitate towards all these trinkets and all these tools that help them get to the next level. One who is truly evolving does not need tools or trinkets or gadgets or things to make them become more aware. You become more aware by realizing who you are, by gaining knowledge of self intrinsically and not just at a fleshly, topical level. All right. And that's real. Now, I'm not referring to and speaking to these people that they might not be on the same or in the same evolutionary ballpark as the truly conscious, but it's like, how can you tell if they are disciplined and disciplined or not disciplined in the arts of the high sciences? I'm not referring to a set of beliefs that have been given to someone due to their propensity to be deceived. I'm speaking to those that are set on evolving without any bias towards any programmable applications. Okay, because in this matrix, right, you have many programmable applications, apps. You have many apps, okay, or doctrines that exist within this matrix which accomplish a specific goal for the user, all right? Because that's what apps are pretty much. A program that directly supports a user application that accomplishes a specific goal for the user apart from the operating system, a utility, or any other underlying support programming. All right. So, within this larger system, which can be considered objectively neutral, you have a lesser matrix or many levels or many lesser matrices, which can be considered subjectively good, bad, unjust, just, etc., which are lorded over by avatars that have been placed there. Okay, through their agents, they establish codes or apps like morality, for example. Let's just use the example of morality. Now, this application called morality might be developed to suit a certain user or benefit a certain user. But while benefiting that user, it might utterly confuse another user, which it was not even intended for. You see, you have these pre-prescribed options of how you should conduct yourself in this matrix, right? What is proper etiquette? What is a faux pas? At any given time. This is the program of morality and its wide-ranging codes for what is supposed to be moral. Okay? But it's been largely successful in dividing up tribes and people groups, according to their perceived savagery. Because the people group that establishes a set standard of morality, they thus label other societies that don't really accept or understand their definition of morality as they're perceived as being savages. You know what I mean? It's just like, if you don't conform to my idea of what morality is or what is moral, then I consider you a savage. Okay, which basically is just only my subjective interpretation of an idea of morality. Okay? It's like the word normal. What the fuck is normal? You know what I'm saying? It's just really like, okay, define normal objectively. What is normal? What might be normal to you might be crazy to me. What might be like normal to me might be crazy to you. So it's like there is no objective standard of morality. Neither is there an objective standard for normal or the definition thereof. Now, let's really move on to religion. Okay, let's talk about the matrix of religion. It's also a programmed one. You see, religion has long since been a tool that instills fear within the disciple in order to lead the disciple into conformity or in alignment with the ruling class or structure. You see, you have a set group of laws that must be followed, and if not, penalties for breach of contract will be enforced, right? God is the creditor and man is the debtor. Man must make oblations to the creditor for the commission of sin, right? That's how it usually goes. If Jesus really conquered death, right, and paid the penalty for sin like they say he did, then each sin account would be paid. It would be out of necessity. So we would no longer be sinners but heirs with Christ as gods. Doesn't the Bible say that? You see, but they put Jesus up on a pedestal acting like he never said all these things, and all these things about how we are gods. I mean, and all these things I do, ye shall do greater. Okay? I mean, that's in scripture. And in John chapter 10, verse 34, I believe, through 36, it says, is it not written in your word that ye are gods and that scripture cannot be broken? So, I mean, it's just like, when it comes to the Bible, topically, I'll look at it, if you interpret it for face value and topically, I can't really link up with that, but if you look at the intrinsic underlying principles and the esoteric knowledge behind it, yeah, I'll tell you, yeah, it's a damn good book, but it's all about interpretation. All right, it's all about interpretation, and the way the majority of people interpret the Bible is wrong. Okay, then you have the okay, and let me keep on this religious subject for a minute, because at this point, to be religious, it's simply to rely upon a system of beliefs that's designed to keep your ass in check. Basically, let's keep it real. There is no spiritual power within corporate religion, only the power that you can amass through concentration and other forms of focused energy. You see, these religious folk do not have spiritual experiences. They just create their own experience, and through their ignorance attribute it to something that's outside of themselves. Okay? Which is really sinful. Okay? Then you have, now you also have the program of war within this matrix. Okay? This program runs in unison with the program of the ego. Okay? And the ego, you can look at it as one of those application programs that has evolved along with these avatars, these bodies, our flesh, and comes online once a sense of self is identified, usually at a very young age. So let me say that again, really. Okay, see, the ego is an application. Okay, it's an application program that has evolved along with your body, the avatar. But it usually comes online once a sense of self is identified, usually at a very young age. Okay. All right. So, and when you look at war is big business. It's designed to create a matrix of fear upon a targeted group for profit, period. And you can say that the ego is the thorn in the side of humanity. Okay, you can say that. I would agree with that. But it's a byproduct of, the ego is a byproduct of consciousness interpreting reality through an avatar. Okay, ego is a byproduct of consciousness interpreting reality through an avatar. Similar to how when you drive your car, a byproduct of you driving and the car running is the production of carbon monoxide, which is toxic and can kill you. You see? The ego is a byproduct of consciousness interpreting reality through an avatar. All right? And the ego of the common collective, and what I call the group ego, the group ego tends to manifest in groups of 3 or more people, which can be extremely toxic. Okay, because if you're in groups of 3 or more, this is my observation. This is an observation now. If you're in groups of 3 or more, then there is a collective ego or it's not necessarily an individual opinion. It's more of a collective uh, group in unison promoting one centralized ego. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. When you get people in groups, you know what I'm saying? It tends to the energy in motion that is stimulating that event will directly feed that specific collective ego. Okay. Now, like racism, for example, right? While we're on the ego, okay. Like racism, for example, racism, or the system of racism, really is being different from bigotry because they're different. Okay, it's the byproduct of ego. So racism is the byproduct of ego. Okay, which I've said in my previous installments. Okay, now it's the avatar's ego is the avatar's natural coping mechanism to the avatar's conscious awareness. Okay, so the ego is the avatar's natural coping mechanism to the avatar's conscious awareness to this reality, okay, or to the reality of fear. All right, so your ego has evolved with the avatar, and it is a coping mechanism, okay, and it is the avatar's conscious awareness to the reality of fear. So ego intrinsically is intercorrelated with fear. Okay, the ego experiences fear through its input channel. Okay, the output is how the ego would like to respond to that particular fear. Okay, so the ego experiences fear, all right, through its input channel. The output is how the ego would like to respond to that particular fear. All right, and people generally do fear what they don't know, which leads everything back to gnosis. All right, a knowledge of self. All right, and a unit of consciousness, when paired with an avatar, produces unique characteristics that we would say are indigenous to what we define as different races. Okay, so the characteristics of your particular racial group originate out of the evolution of your specific avatar race, i.e., genetics, DNA, working in unison with the individualized consciousness awareness unit. You see, so ego is the result of DNA, the evolutionary state of the avatar, and consciousness interfacing with other units within a matrix. So, I've already stated that there are numerous matrices that exist within a greater matrix, and there are numerous matrices that exist outside of our larger matrix system. You see, what goes on here at ground zero is the effect of consciousness in another reality focusing its attention into our reality in order to accomplish a specific goal, including birth. Okay, so in conclusion, I just really want to say that it is deep. It is deep. And we are within a system which is a simulation via immersion that we must evolve. And we will evolve. Those that really are dedicating themselves to the evolution of consciousness. All right. True evolution of consciousness is not going to come from amassing wealth. It's not going to come with being popular or being seen as the best neighbor on the block. Consciousness comes through experience and you learning through those various experiences. Okay. So, once again, I am Brother Prodigy, aka Will I Am, and this has been another installment titled Virtual Reality, Life in a Virtual Reality, Part 3. Today's date is October 22nd, 2015. Make sure you check out that book, Gnosis of a God. All right? It's out now. So, I just like to say peace, shalom, hotep.